When you think of British Columbia, you picture majestic mountains and glittering glass towers. But beneath Vancouver's pristine surface lies a ruthless, hyper-consolidated economy controlled by a select few. We are talking about the invisible landlords of the Pacific Northwest, the architects of global beverage crazes, and the private syndicates that literally own the grocery aisles, the sports arenas, and the industrial ports. These dynasties operate in the shadows of the mountains, answering to no one. Today, we expose the 10 richest families holding the keys to British Columbia. Number 10. The Bosa family. The concrete sovereigns. When the global elite fly into Vancouver and marvel at the towering glass and concrete skyline that rings the Pacific Ocean, they are largely looking at the physical legacy of a single bloodline. The Bosa family's origin story is the quintessential immigrant triumph, but their current operation is a masterclass in modern, monopolistic real estate. Decades ago, brothers Robert, Colin, and Nat Bosa arrived from Italy and began working as humble carpenters and tradesmen. Through sheer operational grit, they transitioned from swinging hammers to forming concrete, eventually founding Bosa Development and Bosa Properties. They did not just build homes, they built a completely vertically integrated construction fortress. While competing developers are held hostage by volatile supply chains and the whims of third-party contractors, the Bosa family insulated their wealth by bringing the entire process in-house. They control the concrete, they manage the heavy machinery, and they direct the labor force. This structural moat allows them to dictate the pace of development across the province, absorbing economic downturns that would instantly bankrupt heavily leveraged competitors. The family's true power move, spearheaded by Nat Bosa, was executing a massive geographic expansion. He famously acquired the Fairmont Empress Hotel in Victoria, a historic crown jewel asset that signals absolute royalty in the Pacific Northwest. Simultaneously, the family has amassed some of the largest continuous tracts of waterfront real estate in Burnaby and New Westminster, essentially building their own private cities within the broader metropolis. What the general public drastically misunderstands about the Bosa dynasty is their underlying asset class. People assume they are simply selling luxury condominiums to foreign investors. In reality, they are financing and constructing the literal skeleton of British Columbia. They hold billions of dollars in hard, immovable assets that will outlast any stock market cycle or tech bubble. They are not merely participating in the Vancouver housing market. They are the physical foundation it is built upon. Number 9. The Khosrowshahi family. The sovereign capitalists. Most retail fortunes end in tragedy. The graveyard of corporate history is littered with the corpses of electronics chains that were annihilated by the rise of Amazon. The Khosrowshahi family survived and subsequently became billionaires because they possess the terrifying ability to know exactly when to walk away from the table. Hassan Khosrowshahi fled Iran during the 1979 revolution, arriving in Vancouver and founding Future Shop. He scaled it into the absolute behemoth of Canadian electronics retail, crushing independent stores and dominating the national market. But Hassan recognized the impending retail apocalypse long before his competitors did. The family's ultimate power move occurred in 2001. At the absolute zenith of physical retail valuations, Khosrowshahi orchestrated the sale of Future Shop to Best Buy for a staggering $580 million in pure, liquid cash. He did not attempt to fight the internet. He took his chips and completely reinvented his bloodline. The Khosrowshahi family instantly transformed from consumer retail operators into apex capital allocators. They founded Persis Holdings, now operating heavily through Invest Ventures, highly secretive, deeply capitalized private equity and holding company. They deployed their massive war chest into recession-proof verticals, quietly becoming dominant players in the global pharmaceutical industry through entities like Drug Royalty Corporation. They also poured hundreds of millions into master-planned real estate communities and high-yield commercial retail spaces across the province. The misconception surrounding the Khosrowshahi family is profound. Because their name is historically attached to a defunct electronics store, the public views them as merchants. This is a fatal underestimation. Today, the family operates with the quiet, ruthless efficiency of a sovereign wealth fund. They dictate global capital flows, insulate their wealth across multiple uncorrelated industries, and wield immense financial influence from their hyper-private headquarters in Vancouver, proving that true generational wealth is secured not by what you build, but by when you sell. Speaking of quiet, ruthless efficiency, getting more while paying far less, that's exactly what pulled someone on our team to the Pulse R8 Smart Ring. It tracks your heart rate, your sleep, and your workout straight from your finger. A week on a single charge, 100 days with the case, and it's fully waterproof. The part that got us was the price. Under $40, a fraction of what the big-name rings cost because it comes direct instead of through the retailers that mark everything up. If you're watching on your TV, pause and scan the QR code on screen with your phone camera, or tap the first link in the description. Because the next family are the shadow landlords who don't want you to know they exist. Number 8. The Lalji family, the shadow landlords. If you want to understand the terrifying scale of the Lalji family's wealth, you must first accept that they do not want you to know they exist. In an era where billionaires crave celebrity status and launch their own podcasts, the Lalji family enforces an absolute, unbreakable media blackout. They grant no interviews, they do not appear in social pages, and their holding company, Larco Investments, operates as a spectral entity in the Canadian economy. The family, led by Mansour Lalji and his brothers, arrived in Canada after fleeing Idi Amin's brutal regime in Uganda in the 1970s. They began quietly acquiring distressed real estate, slowly building an empire of apartment buildings and commercial lots. But their ambition was not to be mere property managers. They wanted to own the civic infrastructure itself. Their first massive power move was the acquisition of the Park Royal Shopping Centre in West Vancouver, securing an unbreakable retail monopoly in one of the wealthiest postal codes on the entire continent. But they did not stop at retail. The Lalji family aggressively acquired luxury hospitality assets, securing ownership of iconic properties like the Fairmont Hotel Vancouver and the Fairmont Chateau Laurier in Ottawa. However, the ultimate flex of the Lalji dynasty and the maneuver that cements their estimated $3 billion fortune was a staggering 2007 transaction with the Canadian federal government. Larco Investments purchased billions of dollars worth of federal office buildings across the country, instantly leasing them back to Ottawa. The public assumes that to be a real estate mogul, you must endure the headache of chasing tenants for rent. The Lalji family completely rewired the game. They executed a masterstroke of risk insulation, ensuring that their primary tenant is the sovereign government of Canada itself. They collect guaranteed, massive, tax-funded rent checks every single month, all while remaining entirely invisible to the citizens who ultimately foot the bill. Number 7. The Beatty family, the masters of the final mile. When residents of British Columbia look at wealth, their eyes are naturally drawn to the sky. The towering glass penthouses of Cole Harbour or the sprawling cliffside mansions of West Vancouver. The Beatty family looked at the ground and they realized that the most lucrative real estate in the modern economy is entirely flat, incredibly boring, and painted gray. Founded by the late Keith Beatty, and now aggressively expanded by his son, Ryan Beatty, the Beatty Group is the largest private industrial landowner, developer, and property manager in Western Canada. They recognized decades ago that residential real estate is a volatile, emotionally driven market heavily scrutinized by politicians. Industrial real estate, however, is the silent, essential plumbing of global commerce. The family protected their wealth by completely monopolizing the logistics choke points surrounding Vancouver. If a shipping container arrives at the port, or if a consumer clicks buy on an e-commerce platform, there is a statistical certainty that the physical product will pass through a Beatty-owned warehouse. They own the critical distribution centers utilized by Amazon, FedEx, and countless international logistics giants. The Beatty power move was the pioneering of the strata industrial market. Instead of just leasing massive warehouses, they began building and selling smaller, individual warehouse space to local business owners. This allowed them to capture immense upfront capital, while simultaneously retaining ownership of the gargantuan, high-yield distribution parks that generate perpetual rent. What the average person completely misunderstands about the Beatty empire is the nature of modern infrastructure. People think tech billionaires hold the power in the digital age. The Beatty family proves that software is completely useless without physical storage. They do not care which e-commerce company wins the retail war, because regardless of who takes the crown, they all must pay rent to the Beatty family to store their boxes. They own the final mile of capitalism. Number 6. The Louis family. The unbreakable retail fortress. The history of the Louis family is a testament to extreme resilience and the power of generational compounding. Over a century ago, Hock Yacht Louis paid the deeply discriminatory Chinese head tax just to enter Canada. In 1903, he opened a tiny, humble general store in Vancouver's Chinatown. Today, under the leadership of his grandson, Brant Louis, that single storefront has mutated into H.Y. Louis Company, a sprawling corporate leviathan that commands London drugs and, until recently, controlled a massive regional grocery empire. The Louis family protected their billions through a strategy of unyielding, aggressive independence. In a Canadian retail landscape that has been entirely cannibalized by massive public conglomerates like Loblaws, Sobeys, and Walmart, the Louis family refused to bend the knee. They maintained London Drugs as a 100% privately held corporation. This absolute privacy is their ultimate moat. Without the pressure of public shareholders demanding short-term quarterly profits, Brant Louis has been able to invest heavily in supply chain logistics, high-end employee retention, and proprietary distribution networks. Their true power move is their real estate play. The Louis family does not just operate pharmacies. They own the physical dirt beneath many of their massive big-box locations across Western Canada. The common misconception is that London Drugs is simply a place to buy aspirin and electronics. This is a naive view. The Louis family operates a highly fortified, geographically entrenched real estate holding company that uses retail cash flow to pay its carrying costs. By controlling their own logistics and refusing to be absorbed by international conglomerates, they have maintained a sovereign retail state within British Columbia, turning a century of quiet labor into an untouchable, multi-billion-dollar dynasty. Number 5. The Aquilini family. The Stadium Agrarians. To the casual observer, Francesco Aquilini and his family are known for one thing. They are the highly visible, often scrutinized owners of the Vancouver Canucks. When the team wins, they are heroes. When the team loses, they are villains. But the National Hockey League franchise is merely the loudest asset in an otherwise silent, terrifyingly vast corporate empire. Luigi Aquilini immigrated to Canada from Italy in the 1950s, starting a small construction firm that systematically evolved into the Aquilini Investment Group. The family's wealth was not born on the ice, it was born in the dirt. They are an absolute powerhouse in North American agriculture, reigning as some of the largest, most dominant blueberry and cranberry farmers on the continent. Furthermore, they control massive dairy operations and sprawling vineyards. The family protected this immense wealth by aggressively leveraging their agricultural cash flow to acquire high-density downtown real estate. Their true power move was the 2004 acquisition of the Vancouver Canucks. While owning a sports team provides incredible social currency, the Aquilinis utilized the purchase to unlock the staggering real estate potential surrounding Rogers Arena. They erected the Aquilini Center, a massive development of luxury residential towers built directly adjacent to the stadium, effectively capturing the rent, the entertainment dollars, and the food and beverage revenue of the entire district. What the public fundamentally misunderstands about the Aquilini dynasty is their sheer diversity of leverage. People view them solely as sports executives. In reality, they are a deeply entrenched agricultural and developmental syndicate. With an estimated net worth hovering around $3.3 billion, they possess a business model that is entirely insulated from failure. Whether citizens are attending a hockey game, renting a downtown penthouse, or simply buying fruit at the supermarket, they are continually depositing money into the Aquilini Family Trust. Number 4. The Gagliardi family, the hospitality leviathan. If you have ever traveled across Canada and slept in a hotel or eaten at a chain restaurant, you have likely interacted with the Gagliardi family empire. Founded by Bob Gagliardi in 1967 and now fiercely expanded by his son, Tom Gagliardi, Northland Properties is a hospitality leviathan that operates with ruthless, systemic efficiency. The Gagliardis do not simply franchise brands, they own them outright. Their portfolio includes Sandman Hotel Group, the Sutton Place Hotels, Moxie's, Denny's Canada, and Chop Steakhouse and Bar. But the true genius of the Gagliardi family is their absolute mastery of vertical integration. They insulated their multi-billion-dollar wealth by completely eliminating the middleman. When Northland Properties decides to open a new hotel, they do not hire outside contractors. They use their own internal construction company to build the structure. They place their own proprietary restaurant brands on the ground floor to capture the food and beverage revenue, and they operate the hotel themselves. By owning the dirt, the building, the brand, and the management company, they capture every single margin of profit available in the transaction. Their ultimate power move was a geographical and cultural expansion. In 2011, Tom Gagliardi stepped outside the Canadian hospitality sector and purchased the NHL's Dallas Stars out of bankruptcy. He did not just buy a hockey team. He secured a massive foothold in the lucrative, booming market of Texas, signaling to the financial world that Northland Properties was no longer just a regional player, but a continental force. The average consumer assumes that chain restaurants and mid-tier hotels are unglamorous, low-margin businesses. The Gagliardi family proves that when you scale those unglamorous businesses into the hundreds of locations and strictly control the underlying real estate, you generate an estimated fortune nearing $4 billion. They are not merely hoteliers. They are an intercontinental land and leisure monopoly. Number 3. Chip Wilson, the athleisure landlord. Chip Wilson is a globally recognized cultural engineer. By founding Lululemon, he did not just create an apparel brand. He fundamentally altered the daily uniform of the Western world, sparking the athleisure revolution. But while the media continually focuses on his controversial statements and his exit from the Lululemon board, they entirely miss the second act of his empire, which is arguably far more powerful. Wilson insulated his staggering wealth, currently estimated at over $6.5 billion, by executing a massive, strategic extraction of capital. He sold down portions of his public Lululemon stock and poured that hyper-liquid cash directly into the physical bedrock of British Columbia. He founded Low Tide Properties, a heavily capitalized real estate investment firm that operates with the aggressiveness of a tech startup. Wilson's power move was identifying the shifting geographical center of Vancouver's economy. While legacy billionaires fought over the saturated downtown core, Wilson aggressively bought up massive swaths of commercial property in the False Creek Flats and Gastown districts. He correctly predicted that Vancouver would transition into a global hub for life sciences, biotechnology, and digital media. Low Tide Properties specifically targeted and acquired the specialized buildings required to house these industries. The general public still views Chip Wilson as the yoga pants guy. This is a severe miscalculation of his current status. Wilson used the profits of spandex to become one of the largest, most dominant private commercial landlords in the city. He no longer dictates what the citizens of Vancouver wear. He dictates where the city's most lucrative, high-growth technology companies are allowed to operate. He traded the volatility of the fashion industry for the permanence of concrete, securing a dynastic foothold in the Pacific Northwest. Number 2. Anthony von Mandel, the liquid architect. In the highly consolidated, globally monopolized alcohol industry, breaking the grip of the legacy beer cartels is considered mathematically impossible. Anthony von Mandel did not just break their grip. He completely circumvented them, creating an estimated $5.7 billion fortune in the process. Operating out of Vancouver, von Mandel is the mastermind behind the Mark Anthony Group. He recognized early on that a massive demographic of consumers detested the taste of beer but wanted a casual, sessionable alcoholic beverage. He capitalized on this by creating Mike's Hard Lemonade, and later, he engineered the absolute zenith of the modern beverage market, White Claw Hard Seltzer. Von Mandel protected his multi-billion-dollar empire by refusing to entertain a buyout. While craft breweries and bespoke alcohol brands routinely sell out to giants like Anheuser-Busch or Molson Coors, at the first sign of success, von Mandel kept the Mark Anthony Group 100% privately held. He answers to no board of directors and publishes no public financial statements. This absolute autonomy allowed him to pivot production rapidly, dominate the hard seltzer category, and capture the entire cultural zeitgeist before the legacy brands even understood what was happening. His ultimate power move is how he utilizes this massive influx of cash. Von Mandel essentially uses the billions generated by malt liquor and hard seltzer to fund his true passion, ultra-premium, world-class winemaking. He poured his fortune into creating Mission Hill Family Estate in the Okanagan Valley, transforming a relatively unknown Canadian wine region into a global, award-winning destination that rivals Bordeaux and Napa Valley in architectural prestige. The public assumes White Claw is just a fleeting party trend for college students. What they misunderstand is the brutal financial engineering behind the can. Anthony von Mandel built a precision-strike financial weapon that disrupted a century-old industry, utilizing the profits of a trendy summer drink to build a timeless, legacy-defining wine empire. Number 1. The Pattison Family. The Economic Operating System. To label Jim Pattison as a businessman is a profound understatement. He is the undisputed corporate sovereign of British Columbia. With an estimated net worth fluctuating between $11 billion and $12 billion, Pattison operates a conglomerate so vast and deeply integrated that it functions as a shadow economy within the province. His origin story is corporate mythology. In 1961, Pattison borrowed money to open a single Pontiac dealership. Over the next 6 decades, he relentlessly compounded that initial investment, demonstrating a terrifying Warren Buffett-esque discipline. Today, the Jim Pattison Group is the second largest privately held company in Canada. Pattison insulated his empire through total, inescapable vertical integration. He does not just own Save-On Foods, the premier regional grocery chain. He owns the fisheries, Canadian fishing company, that pull the salmon out of the ocean. He owns the packaging companies that wrap the food. He owns the Peterbilt trucking logistics companies that transport the goods, and he owns the massive billboard networks that advertise them. His ultimate power move is his absolute lifelong refusal to take his company public. By remaining the sole owner of a conglomerate that generates billions in annual revenue, Pattison has retained singular, unquestioned authority over capital allocation. He operates with no debt pressure from Wall Street, allowing him to make aggressive acquisitions, like buying global oddities such as Guinness World Records and Ripley Entertainment, simply because he possesses the liquid cash to do so. What people fundamentally misunderstand about Jim Pattison is the inescapable nature of his wealth. He is not merely a rich man with his name on a hospital or an auto mall. He owns the economic operating system of the province. It is mathematically impossible to live in British Columbia without putting money into his pocket. From the food you eat, to the cars you drive, to the media you consume, the Pattison family is collecting a toll. At over 90 years old, he stands as the absolute apex predator of Canadian capitalism. British Columbia is not just a scenic postcard. It is a fortress of privately held, multi-generational wealth. From the invisible logistics warehouses to the global monopoly on hard seltzers, these dynasties have mastered the art of vertical integration. They don't just participate in the local economy, they own the infrastructure that makes it function. They have built the skylines, paved the trade routes, and captured the consumer markets in total silence. To continue tracking the hidden money that shapes our modern reality, like and subscribe to Global Status,